We have seen a divide between Main Street, which is dying, and Wall Street, which is thriving. People who are thriving, especially white collared workers, like you and I, who are sitting in the luxury of our homes,
Yeah, yeah.
safe, away from harm, we should actually think about how we can elevate one or two lives.
Welcome to the Rozy Effect, where I give you the keys to lead digital transformation. I'm your host, Rozy Amponsa. Today's guest, Sridhar Solur. Sri is a serial entrepreneur and a product leader with a track record of incubating, growing, and managing a portfolio of products and businesses in a worldwide capacity. He was a chief product officer at SharkNinja, where he oversaw the design and build of robots, appliances, and food tech-based products. During his tenure as the executive leading the robotics division, SharkNinja went through an IPO, and Sri led the creation of the company's first advanced navigation robot. Before that, he was the SVP of Product Management and Engineering for Comcast Digital Home. In this capacity, he was responsible for building, releasing, and scaling flagship IoT products such as Xfinity Home and Xfinity X5. Sri currently heads the Mobile Industrial Robots division at Berkshire Grey. Sri was also the founder of HP's IoT cloud mobile printing product, HP ePrint. And he also created Engineered by HP as a sub-brand, supporting the wearables IoT products for consumer brands like Hugo Boss, Coach, Ferrari, and Movado. Sri has significant international experience, have lived and worked in Asia, Europe, and North America. He also sits on multiple boards and is a mentor for both Alchemist Enterprise Accelerator and 500 Startups. Sri has a bachelor's degree in electronics and computer engineering from NIT India and an MBA from Boston University. I'm excited about this conversation. We're bringing in maybe some philosophy, tie it into business. How is it impacting with all that's going on right now with the pandemic? Let's get into it. Sri, I am so grateful for you to take time and for me to have the opportunity to speak to you, learn a bit more about your background, and really be discussing such timely topics with your deep expertise with entrepreneurial ventures. So thank you for taking time to chat with the Rozy Effect.
Oh, thank you for having me. Looking forward to our conversation. So,
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. You come to the table with such a breadth of experience and successes when we look at entrepreneurial ventures. But that definitely doesn't come with it, it comes with its fair share of challenges as well. And in today's world, with the way technology is moving and changing the way that we work, first off, I'd love to understand your interpretation of digital transformation.
yeah, Rosie, the way I look at digital transformation is it's a summation of four things coming together. I would call it digital, mobile, virtual, and personal. So it's a melange, it's an eclectic mixture of those four forces, a confluence of the four forces coming together. And it's very simple. We have gone from a world where you had around 300 million people who had devices connected to the internet to close to around 5 billion people walking around with mobile devices that are connected to the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
So digital and mobile actually go hand in hand. Mobile has changed the lives of farmers on one hand to large corporations on the other.
Hmm.
So that's just one example. The next part is virtual. When I talk about virtual, especially in the pandemic era that we are living in right now, everything is virtual at this point in time. There are companies that have quickly realized after 3 months of working from home that they don't need office space.
Yeah.
We have actually transformed a way of our life. We are social animals. We continue to be social animals, but we have gone behind, I wouldn't call this the facade, but gone behind this curtain of being virtual.
Mm.
And sometimes it's brought us closer. To give you an example, all my mates from engineering school, we meet every evening at 6 p.m. for yoga. It's unbelievable. For like 25 years, we probably met once or twice. And now we see each other every evening
At
at
7
6
o'clock.
p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the beauty of digital is a byproduct that enables virtuality.
Mm.
And the next piece is personal. Personalization is everywhere.
Yeah.
Look at Netflix. You have your profile for Netflix based on who you are and what you watch, your personal recommendation. It could be your significant other, and for that person, the recommendations are vastly different.
Yeah.
And personalization builds in the love for the product many a times. And I think Burger King said this very early on. It said, when you have it your way, it just tastes better. So the point that I'm trying to highlight is digital transformation is not just about digitizing and enabling an ROI, but then its ability to appeal to the human instincts, the brain, the heart, the gut,
Hmm.
and the joy it brings.
Mm.
Digital plays a central role. And the central role associated with joy is personalization.
Yeah.
And so that's the summary: digital, mobile, virtual, personal.
Digital, mobile, personal, and virtual. And I love that you've grouped it into these four tenets because, as you said, the way that our physical and our digital is so melding in together, we need to find ways to be able to take advantage of it. And what I'm hearing is the tenet of the person, how they're going to define that for themselves, and then the organization, how they're going to redefine their processes, their structure to the end consumer. And I love that you hone in on the sense of personalization because the need and what the customer's expectations are, those are not going anywhere and those continue to increase. So yeah, right alignment. So when we talk about success in the sense of digital transformation, you've led Ninja, you've led other entrepreneurial ventures into immense success in really understanding who the consumer is. And you also come to the table with just that breadth of the personalization side of things and the business side of things. So I'd love for you to touch on both when we talk about what digital transformation success looks like.
Yeah. So success from a digital transformation perspective um, is fairly simple. It's a clear revenue, clear margins, clear accountability that is driven across the organization. And digital enables a data driven culture.
Mm.
Having a data driven culture enables transparency in any system. So you can actually remove the use of adjectives and you can get specifics. You don't have to say, yeah, this was a great launch. You can go specifics and say, 83% of the people basically converted during this launch campaign.
Mhm.
So that level of transparency makes it very, very helpful to drive results. The third one is it's tangible and measurable. And last but not the least, it enables you to grow faster than the marketplace. So you can take share away from your competition. And since this is all digital and this is all data driven, you have the ability to see patterns in data. And when you see patterns in data, you can actually look for new opportunities and monetize the data.
Mm.
So there are amazing byproducts of digital transformation. And I would like to summarize again. Number one, enables a data-driven culture. 2, drives transparency across the board. 3, tangible, measurable, quantifiable results. 4, all this enables you to grow faster than your competition in the marketplace. 5, it enables you to discover new opportunities because you can see patterns in data in space and time, and you have the ability to monetize the data.
You're able to define new business models and monetize the data to still benefit that end consumer. Absolutely. And earlier you touched on the impact that the pandemic is having across organizations. So how should business leaders really go about positioning their organizations, especially in this time of uncertainty, and being able to not only navigate it now, but position themselves to excel moving forward?
Every recession or every pause, every disruption should be looked upon as two things by a leader. One, it is a great equalizer. Look at the era of COVID that we are living in.
Yeah.
Everybody from a common man to a king can get COVID. It doesn't matter. There is no, you don't discriminate between the two.
No, say that again.
So it's basically, you're one among equals. It's a great equalizer.
Yeah.
The second one is it's also a great accelerator. If you basically play your cards right, you have the ability to get further ahead of competition. Or you could potentially benefit from a situation like this. So it is the way you change your mindset to make that, effectuate that change. So let me give you an example of, equalizer.
Okay.
And it is easy to look at a previous event or a previous recession and then highlight the example, and then we can bring that back to the current environment. The last recession was in 2008.
Yeah.
In 2008, the recession drove the adoption of technologies that moved most of the things from on-premise to the cloud.
Yeah.
What's the beautiful thing that happened when everything moves to the cloud is when you do a startup, you don't need to have a data center. You could just go work with Amazon Web Services. And literally you had APIs that you could tap into for notifications, you name it. The API economy started to take off. And you could be in Silicon Valley, or you could be in Nigeria, or you could be in India. You could start a business with literally, zero assets, but have great access to the cloud infrastructure. And it was not a huge capital investment.
Yeah.
So it became a great equalizer. That recession drove startups in different parts of the world. So look at every recession or every reset or every disruption as an equalizer, because it's hurting everyone to the same extent.
Across the board.
And you have the ability to figure out where you can accelerate it. The second thing is recessions and disruptions are great accelerators. Look at what has happened to Wall Street versus Main Street.
Yeah.
Wall Street, S&P, in terms of performance,
Exploded
in the era of COVID, which is amazing. Look at what has happened to e-commerce. Look at the number of jobs that's been added by retailers focusing on e-com fulfillment. Look at what's happened to the world of robotics. Look at what has happened to the world of bioinformatics. Telemedicine was wallowing in mediocrity for the last 15 years. And now, ooh la la, it's like, remember how many times you've gone to a doctor's office and you sit in that waiting room.
Mm.
And then after 30, 45 minutes of waiting, you have someone who comes in and says, the doctor will see you now. You know what has happened now with all these telemedicine and Zoom based meetings with your doctor?
Yeah.
It's not that the doctor will see you now. Now it's about the patient will see you now. It's things have changed, things have accelerated. It took how many years to eradicate polio? Think about how many years it took since Edward Jenner found the vaccine for smallpox.
Mm.
200 plus years. Now we are talking about having a vaccine in a matter of like less than a year. That's an accelerator. The positive piece of the pandemic
Mm.
is figure out where your skills can be used to accelerate your business. Skill up and also understand that this is a great equalizer.
Mm.
So if you are a leader, you have to basically create a framework, paint a picture of the future, drive the vision, but also have tangible actions for the week, the month, and the next 90 days on how you're driving your company, helping them accelerate, take
Mm.
advantage. And when you come out of this portal, you're going to come out absolutely stronger.
Mm.
And that is what every leader has to do.
Yeah, yeah. I want to push it a bit further on the individual perspective. You've touched on, the unfortunate incidents of this pandemic, but what's looking to come out of it is it being an equalizer and it sort of, you know, really escalating opportunities and growing that. But at the same time, what if individuals really just don't have the access? We all know where our numbers are in the United States when we talk about unemployment. I think at this point, we've surpassed 36 million, if I'm not mistaken. And so the changes in technology is there. It's rapid, it's growing. But yet there's a gap. There's a gap in value. And so how should an individual, a leader, looking to figure out what that transformation looks like, I call it individual transformation. How do they take those key advice that you just honed it on as an opportunity in that space? Because they might not have had that, background, or they might not have been aware of it in the first wave of back in, '08 or '09. And now they're here and now they're in this instance. So how do they take advantage of what you've mentioned and position themselves to actually benefit from the changes that we're experiencing right now?
The only thing that I can say is we have seen a divide. We have seen a divide between Main Street, which is dying, and Wall Street, which is thriving. People who are thriving, especially white collared workers, like you and I, who are sitting in the luxury of our homes,
Yeah, yeah.
safe, away from harm, we should actually think about how we can elevate one or two lives. This is paid forward time. All the business leaders should be looking at what can I do
Mm.
to help a bunch of businesses around to retool and elevate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If every leader modeled the behavior of never taking more than they can give, so never taking, never take more than you can give,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you will end up in a scenario where you can help a wee bit. So if there are people who come to your home to clean your home, pay them. There's nothing wrong, right? Um, Try and look at getting food from a local restaurant with a delivery or a takeout. It's going to take them some time to transform their business models.
Yeah.
Look at a company called Reef when you get a chance. Reef is a company that went and bought up a lot of parking lots. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're putting up trailers, and there is plumbing, there is air conditioning, there are kitchens. Now, if you have a restaurant,
Oh,
a
wow.
local restaurant that people can't go into, and they basically have to shut down the restaurant, they don't really have to shut down the restaurant because they have a digital presence on Yelp. Now you could basically go rent this small trailer kitchen. You could still have your online presence, and when you order from your favorite pizza joint, Rosie, it's actually coming in from a leased trailer that you can go pick up from.
Oh, wow.
It can be delivered home. So their capex investment has gone away,
Yeah.
and now it's turned into OpEx.
It's
It's,
OpEx.
it's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
you are seeing the rise of cloud kitchens. So I'm giving one example of a restaurant on Main Street which potentially could be dying, but then there are businesses that have jumped in to create a conducive business model. Think of this as Amazon Web Services for restaurants. So
Very
you
smart.
could, and they're doing the same thing about with dog grooming.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, the beauty of mankind
Mm.
is not how much we have fallen, but how magnificently we have risen.
Mm.
We will be remembered by the stars, not because of the death and carnage, but because of our poems, celebrations, and our ability to adapt
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to every environment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put philosophy aside for a moment, and I'll tell you how some of us have transformed ourselves in the last 3 months. Number one, focus on health. When you get a chance, get out there, pound the pavement, go for a run, go for a walk, build your immunity
Mm.
just a wee bit, right? Two is skill up. I spent some time and took courses on the web just to learn something new. I took Professor Scott Galloway's course on the T algorithm. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, immersed myself. It felt like I was back in school, and it gave me a better appreciation of education tech.
Mm.
People spend close to $200,000 for a 4-year education. That's a lot of money.
In today's
And
world of
now,
transformation.
yeah, and if you actually look, you can eke out equivalent value at a much lower cost.
Yeah.
Education tech is going through a massive transformation thanks to the
Disrupting.
pandemic.
Yeah. It's disrupting. Yeah.
So my message to anyone and everyone is if there is a chance for you to get healthier, this is your chance.
Mm.
If there is a chance for you to nurture your personal relationship, however far you are, the, the example is my engineering school mates. Like some of them had not seen them in 25 years. Now I'm seeing them every evening. Nurture your relationships.
Yeah.
And whenever possible, please never take more than you can give,
Mm.
especially if you're in the position of privilege,
Mm.
because that is what humanity is all about.
Mm. Never take more than you can give. Yeah. And I love my conversations with you every time I get a chance because I love how you really break down individual transformation and the impact to organizations. Yeah. Let's look into, you've touched on these things. Give me, what would you say is a characteristic, a skill that leaders need to either be looking for within your organizations or individuals need to have to really be thinking, getting that mindset right? What is that characteristic to help them be positioned to succeed in this era?
Yeah, I mean it's very simple. First thing is know your goals. Please know your goals as to what you want to achieve. It's okay, you know, if it's a goal which is a 5-year goal, but know where you want to go. And it's not too hard to figure that out, you know. And make sure you have a path to that goal for not the year, as to what am I doing today to get to that goal. So focus with the mentality of progress over perfection. Like every day, one small step, because consistency matters. If you run every day, A, you're going to lose weight. It doesn't matter. Two, you're going to get faster. It's going to be painful, but just remember, you just have to lace up and take that one step. It's going to hurt, but take the next step. You know, you're going to be out of breath, but take the third step.
Yeah.
You have to do that day in and day out. Consistency, progress over perfection. The second thing is productive paranoia. That is really, really, really helpful. You have to be paranoid about not succeeding and always keep thinking about 4 or 5 things that's going to hinder you from succeeding, and have a mental plan in terms of what are the countermeasures I'm taking, and get down to the specifics. Productive paranoia is healthy. It's not being negative, but it's about reducing the risks to maximize the rewards. Remember, we are in through a pandemic. Everything is risky.
Yeah.
But knowing your high impact, high probability risks is what I'm calling as productive paranoia. See, the beauty of risk is when you mitigate and manage or transfer the risk, you maximize the rewards.
Yeah.
Right? 3, please have the culture of specifics. You are a leader, you don't have to float at 100,000 feet. You need to learn to get into the specific, the nitty-gritties.
Yeah.
The day you get that, you have taken your first step towards that goal. Whatever is your goal, but get into the specifics. I encourage people to do pre-mortems, just like post-mortem, pre-mortem. Think about all the things that can potentially go wrong and understand what you can do in those situations. Because chances are you're going to go back to that little toolkit that you've created of pre-mortems, and you're absolutely going to use it. I'm also going to highlight a characteristic of humility and tenacity working together.
Yeah.
Winning is a team sport. Winning is a team sport, especially during times of pandemic. Know who your team is, rally the team towards a common goal, and be humble, but be tenacious. Model the right behavior, inspire your teammates, enable and encourage, but also challenge them. Because if you don't challenge your team, you're not going to win together. So the summary here is progress over perfection, have productive paranoia, get into the culture of specifics, pre-mortem, understand the risks, mitigate, manage, or transfer those risks to maximize the rewards. Be consistent every day. It doesn't matter whether it's running, reading, solving for puzzles, or skilling up. Winning is a team sport. Know your team, inspire, enable, encourage, but also challenge your team members. And last but not the least, have that combination of humility and tenacity, because that's what's going to help you win. There is enough negativity in the system, there is enough pain in the system. You don't have to be arrogant of sorts. Humility plays a big role. So,
wow. The key things you've mentioned in this response really fits into our next topic on how COVID has really exposed vulnerabilities within our businesses, operations, communities in particular. It's laid bare how biases continue to be a threat. It's a threat to our society. And there's definitely a unique opportunity, whether it's on the tech leaders' perspectives or business leaders in general, when it comes to rebuilding teams, when it comes to, as you said, honing in on the level of empathy. It's basic and simple as that. So how can leaders really better integrate diversity and inclusion, right? In all that's happened lately, there's been a lot of discussion around it, a lot of pledging. And, my big thing is, how does that shift from conversation to implementation? And so how do we go ahead about driving these kind of issues, especially in this era of digital transformation, and being able to actually position your organization to reflect what it is that you're discussing around racial tension and so forth?
The beauty of digital transformation is everything is now measurable.
Ooh,
now,
there. We're going.
Everything is measurable, right? You can actually look at your board of directors and measure what level of diversity is there, or what level of diversity you promise that you're going to enable, and has that really happened? The point here is, the beauty of digital transformation is transparency and your ability to measure.
Mm.
And right now, it's time for leaders to walk the talk. And it is time for everyone else, the other stakeholders, to hold the leaders responsible for, show me the numbers. And look, I'm a product builder. I'm a big believer that when you create a product for the mass market, if you have a diverse product related workforce, you will actually create the right product for the diverse marketplace, because the product development team has to be a reflection of the diversity of the marketplace. How simple is that?
But why do you think that's still not the case? What is the challenge holding leadership back to actually see that? We've seen the data, we've seen the impact. So what is that, right? I'm even just repeating my words because I'm just like, what is holding them back?
I think the transformation is happening and it needs to accelerate. And as I have highlighted, there are events in history that are great accelerants. And what you're seeing right now is the era of acceleration, whether it's because of COVID, whether it's because of some unfortunate incidences, that's been highlighted in the media, thanks to the world of mobile. Again, I said digital has mobile. Think about it. If all of us didn't have cameras with us, how many of that level of transparency wouldn't have existed? We wouldn't even have known. If we didn't have social media wherein you could share instances so quickly, you could not have created this kind of a movement.
Yeah.
Of course, there is a downside of false information being percolated within the system too. But the summary here is, digital has basically helped drive that transparency, not just within the organization, but within the society. But there is a downside to that with fake news and, and you have forces that are trying to disrupt the harmony of a great country like the US. I can tell you, I came to the US in 1997. I've lived and worked. When I say lived and worked, I've paid taxes in 6 countries. I have traveled to 87 countries. And I can tell you one thing, even today, US is by far, by every standard, is one of the best countries to live in, to raise a family, where there is meritocracy.
Wow.
But we can do better. We can do better. If you have lived in Europe, think about it. If you want to get an internet connection, it is such a painful task. It can take a month to get something scheduled.
Hmm.
The concept of credit history is pegged to your address. So one fine day, you would have moved into an apartment, you get a notice that you have a bad credit history because it's not pegged to a person. Unlike the US, I can go on and on. I've lived in Europe for quite some time. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. There is socialized medicine. If you have, let's say a stomach ache, you can walk into NHS in the UK and get treated,
Mhm.
and you don't pay a penny. You don't pay a penny. You don't have to think about, hey, I have insurance or not. That's super liberating. But let me also tell you, there are like 10 other things that an American landing in parts of Europe would definitely not tolerate. There are system inefficiencies. You'd be like, oh my God.
Hmm.
So all I'm trying to highlight is the United States is a great country built on great fundamentals.
Hmm.
And we have the ability to come together to effectuate a change. And I'm still very optimistic that across the political aisles, there is this common thread
Hmm.
that as a country, we can come together
Hmm.
and beat this pandemic. Look at what's going to happen with the vaccine for COVID 19. How many American candidates are there who are front runners?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can effectuate a change.
Yeah.
And 2020, we are all going to remember, there's so many people who have gone through life events. Life events is not just people who have been affected in a bad way. There are lots of people who have got married. They can tell stories to their grandkids and great grandkids about,
Yeah.
you know,
Quite
how they celebrated their wedding.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
I keep going back to this, you
Hmm.
know. And I just want to quote one thing here, Rosie.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we appreciate symphonies, however seldom they are played? Shouldn't we enjoy our peaceful acres, however often they are turned into battlefields?
Hmm.
Shouldn't we appreciate our dreams, however rarely they are accomplished? The miracles of man is not how much he has fallen, but how magnificently he has risen. We will be remembered by the stars, not by the corpses, but
Hmm.
by our poems and celebrations.
Hmm.
If you and I were to talk at the end of the year or like January or February next year, our perspective is going to be vastly different.
Hmm.
You will see how this has been an equalizer, how this has been an accelerant, how this era, digitization, which is digital, mobile, virtual, personal, has actually driven transparency in a society, effectuated a change in how we have come back together as a country
Hmm. Hmm.
to still remain right on top.
Hmm. I
That's
love
my
your
message.
optimism. Love your optimism. Love your perspective. Love your insights in looking at what it used to be, what those challenges were. It's kind of funny. It's like we almost forgot what 08, 09 looked like from an economic perspective. And then now here we are trying to almost like start from scratch, ground zero. But I love how it is a remembrance as in it's been done. It has happened before. Things and elements might be different, but there's a foundational sort of similarity as you've shared with me. And so, how do you go about identifying opportunities and taking advantage of that? Yeah, yeah, this has been good. This has been really good. I just want to kind of get a summary question here. It still goes into people, it still goes into culture. And the foundational thing is really looking at leaders having an opportunity in building new teams, in restructuring their organization. what should they be thinking about? How can they position themselves to continue once again in this era of digital transformation? And how does an individual's sort of journey of individual transformation really play a role in this, right? For us to strive and be successful and align with this sense of just, I just love the way you are envisioning what success looks like and how we as a people can come together to do that. So what does that journey look like?
As you build your teams, the basics never change. There are two things. It's a combination of mindset and expertise. You need both. And mindset plays a very big role in any team that you build. And when I talk of mindset, I spoke about a few things from a mindset perspective. The first thing, I call it the vowels of life. AEIOU.
Oh,
The
Val.
vowels. The vowels, right? I have a thick Indian accent, so I'm glad you repeated that. A for attitude,
Okay.
E for energy, I integrity,
Mm,
O openness, complete transparency, and U is understanding, which is empathy, trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
mm,
Look for the basics, the AEIOU of that person as you bring that person in. That's
mm,
number one.
mhm.
The second dimension of mindset is I'm going to put that into a category of look for people who believe in consistency every day, right? Getting things done. Look, you don't have to be a genius.
You touch on that,
If
right?
you're just consistent day after day, you can beat a genius. I'll give you an example. There's a book called Black Box Thinking.
Okay.
This professor divided his class of pottery, right? To make pottery, divided his class into two parts. In one part, he told the team and said, go create a masterpiece. And to the second, he basically told them to come back every day with, one step towards creating something big and nice. Guess who won? Who actually created the masterpiece? It's not that this great team who went back to like the drawing board to create a masterpiece. No, not that. It's basically this team that did small things every day. That's really important. Consistency. Three, productive paranoia. It's okay to be paranoid a wee bit. That's going to drive a culture of doing a pre-mortem, understanding
Yeah.
what potentially could go wrong and correct it.
Yeah.
And last but not the least, making sure that you pick people who believe in like progress over perfection, have humility and tenacity working together. So that's the mindset. I spoke about AEIOU. I bundled a bunch of characteristics associated with mindset,
Yeah.
and that was number two. And the third piece is expertise. You know, get people who are creme de la creme, but they need to have that mindset.
Mm, mm,
I really like, I'm going to quote the founder or the CEO of Peloton, John Foley, and he mentioned we basically a bunch of us met with him and we asked him a question. He said, hey, you know about Peloton, right? And Peloton has these instructors who have a cult like following.
yes, I know.
Cult like following, and we asked him, I said, hey, you have so many divas that you have to manage because if you have a million odd followers and everybody's watching you, your ego might rise.
Hmm.
John had one answer to the question. He says, I have a no asshole policy. If someone becomes a diva, they're gone. They're gone. It doesn't matter what kind of following they have and what the fallout on the business is going to be, they are gone. So the point that I'm trying to highlight is when you bring people on board, create that amazing culture,
Mm,
combination of extreme humility with extreme tenacity coming together.
mhm, mm,
And that's the kind of company you want to build.
yeah,
That's the kind of behavior you want to model.
yeah,
And that's what you want to be doing, as you rebuild or build a team or build a company. And that's your recipe that's going to take you from good to great.
wow, wow. This has been an amazing conversation. This has been really good. Where can people follow you to just get more insights and just suck up some Shri knowledge?
Now, it's thank you for giving me a platform and also the questions that you've asked. The best way is to follow me on Twitter is at Sridhar Solur or connect with me on LinkedIn and just ask me any questions at any point in time. I'm very diligent. I spend my weekends mentoring companies and talking to people who need help. And I really want to walk the talk on never taking on more than I can give.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's a part. My weekends are spent with having conversations and giving back
mm,
to founders of the company who can employ more and more people.
yeah.
So if you need to reach me, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Awesome. Awesome. Shri, I am very grateful for your time and thank you so much for your insights.
No worries, Rosie. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe and healthy.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Until next
All
time.
right.
All right, leaders, you heard it here. As Shri really honed in across his messaging, look at any disruption as both an equalizer and an accelerator, and really move with the foundation of empathy. This was an amazing conversation. I don't want you to miss any more of this. So, one, if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, and make sure you leave a rating and a review on Apple's iTunes podcast. And as you know, around here, we don't just walk to therozyeffect.com, we run. So run to therozyeffect.com. That is TheRozyEffect.com and subscribe because these conversations are getting even more powerful. I don't want you to miss out. And until next time, I'm your host, Rozy Amponsa.